Uber, the disruptor of taxis, is now partnering with them? Hey everyone, my name is Chris and welcome to the RideShare Guy. In a move that I thought would never happen, and I'm sure many people never thought would happen, where Uber is now partnering with New York City taxis to bring them onto the platform and have taxis be able to accept Uber trips. So let's go over some of the highlights of this deal. Let's go over what some drivers are already saying about this, and then we'll go over my thoughts on this as well. Now, this partnership is going to be in beta form over the next couple of months, and it's going to roll out full-fledged coming in the summer. All right, let's start off with reading some of the article itself. And so how it goes is the company reached an agreement to list all New York City taxi cabs on its app, an alliance that could ease the ride-hailing giants' driver shortage and temper high fares while directing more business to cab drivers whose livelihood were affected by the pandemic. Passengers will pay roughly the same fare for taxi rides as for UberX rides, according to the company. Uber drivers in New York City receive a minimum time and distance rate set by the TLC. Uber said its drivers typically earn more than that rate. Cab drivers who agree to take Uber passengers will be paid the same way. The yellow cab meter rate is based on a different calculus, meaning taxi drivers can make less, the same, or more on an Uber ride depending on the nature of the trip. Unlike Uber drivers in New York, taxi drivers will see expected earnings before the trip and will be able to decline rides they don't think are worth their while, Uber said. For Uber, the alliance marks a departure. Having once vowed to disrupt the U.S. taxi industry, it is now betting that traditional taxis will fuel the next wave of growth. By 2025, Uber wants to list every taxi in the world on its app. It's certainly ambitious, said Mr. McDonald, but I certainly think it's possible. All right, so those are a couple of highlights from the article itself. And let's recap. Essentially, it's a win for Uber. It's a win for the taxi cabs of New York City. It's a win for the taxi drivers of New York City. It's a win for the passengers. And it sounds like it's a big loss for Uber drivers in the city. And I want to know what your thoughts are on this. So let us know in the comments what you think. Now let's switch it up to see what some drivers are already saying. Now these comments are taken from Reddit. And so the first one we're going to go over is from Form Early. And they say, there goes the surge pricing. And then a reply says, possibly, but also a nice new crop to take all the crappy rides while you wait for a good one. Well, the problem is, you got to remember, these are taxi cab drivers. They do this professionally, and they've probably been doing it more than you have as an Uber driver. Just saying. So they're going to know what crappy rides are and then pass on those because they can. So a little different there when it comes to it. But going on to another reply, DC Hacker says, I do not know what the New York boys will do, but if they reinstate it here, I am taking only surge rides. Keep in mind as well, the cab drivers are going to have information that the ants do not. And that is the upfront information, meaning the destination where the ride is going and also how much they're going to earn. Jeremiah then also replies and says, that's possible, stay strong. They're telling us destination now in New Orleans. And that point is true. 24 markets across the US now have information where they can see where the drop-off location is going to be with the pickup location, so you know the distance and how much you're going to earn, as well as some other information. The only thing is, it's not New York City or New York, which is my market. And I really would like to have that because with gas prices the way they are, I'd rather make the best decisions on what's worth it for me to take versus not. All right, going on to more comments. Equivalent Arrival 74 says most people don't want cabs. That's why they're using Uber. DC Hacker has a response and says, when UberX was significantly less than a cab, that was the case. And even in the article itself, it did highlight that UberX and taxi rates are right around the same. So it begs the question, are people really going to care if it's a taxi or an Uber, especially if the taxi will come take you to where you want for the same price, and you don't have to necessarily wait for an Uber driver if there's none available in the area, while it being the same price? I think most people are probably looking at how fast they're going to get to their destination and the price. So yeah, that probably will be null and void. But again, I'm not 100% sure, so put your comments below. Now we'll take a look at one more comment that'll be placed on the screen. And it says, Andy, boy to man, and said, I read the deal involves yellow cabs being able to see the pay before they accept a ride, giving them the opportunity to decide if they should accept it. This is totally unfair for us Uber drivers who don't know the pay before we accept a ride. And I have to agree with that comment 100% because, yeah, the drivers for the Uber platform itself should have that information, especially since they are going to be giving it to taxi cab drivers, but they're also giving it to 24 markets, as I had said earlier. So the one person who said, hey, there's a lot more people now to take the crappy rides, well, they know the information, whether it's going to be crappy or not, and you as an Uber driver don't. So if you accept the ride and it turns out to be a crappy ride, well. And then last notable note when it comes to some of the comments that we've been reading from Reddit, the whole thing that a lot of people are talking about is where Uber had said that their global average take for the fourth quarter was at 20%. And I know a lot of people had some strong opinions when they said that's not the case. It's probably closer to 40 to 50%. But unfortunately, they're forgetting things like quests and bonuses and sign-up bonuses. All of that does get paid out. So yeah, unfortunately, it's probably around 20 to 25% is the take. The problem is you as a driver are offering that money towards other drivers, especially if you don't take advantage of those quests, those bonuses, whatever it might be. All right, now going on to my thoughts on this partnership, and some of my thoughts have been sprinkled in throughout the video, so I'm not going to go over that again, but some extra key takeaways. So the first thing that I really want to know is when it comes to an Uber ride versus an Uber taxi ride, how much of the take is Uber actually going to take? Because when it comes to the Uber platform itself, well, essentially they pretty much can take what they want when charging the customer what they want. And then they have to pay out certain requirements when it comes to what the payout is for New York City and the regulations that they have to abide by. But when it comes to a Uber taxi cab ride, well, what's that going to look like when it comes to Uber's take? Is it going to be capped at a certain percentage that is different from Uber drivers? Again, this could be something that could create more conflict when it comes to drivers for Uber and taxi cab drivers who are taking Uber rides. Then what about these false reports, deactivations, and things like that? When it comes to being an Uber driver, well, you're pretty much at the mercy of Uber and what they decide. But when it comes to being a cab driver, you have a whole different group of people plus the taxi cab unions. Now in New York City, I believe Uber drivers are part of the union. I'm not 100%. I don't know. Again, I don't drive in the New York City market. I'm in the upstate New York market. Completely different. New York City is its own beast. So if anybody drives in New York City, are you part of the unions or not? Let me know. And like I said, that's kind of concern from me being my thoughts on this partnership deal. But I will reiterate the big issue, and that is having taxi cab drivers be able to see the pickup and drop off location as well as the estimated earnings for that ride when in fact Uber drivers on the platform still cannot see that. That should be pretty much something that should be seen across the board just to even the playing field and make it worth it for everybody. So it is going to be pretty interesting to see how this whole thing plays out, especially in the summer when it actually goes public for everybody. And we'll see what happens. And then also after that, where are they going to go? Chicago, LA, different areas with taxis? I don't know. But again, I want to know what your thoughts are on this partnership, what you think about the whole thing overall. What are some of your comments, your concerns, some issues that you might see from it? Comment below and let us know. And for those drivers out there who might be on the fence of still continuing to drive or not based on the fuel prices and things like that, we just came out with a video of 45 different tips that you can use to help save money both at the pump and get better fuel efficiency out of your vehicle. Check out the video right here now to see all of those tips. Try implementing them and get your fuel costs down. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, make sure you do. Drive safe, everyone.